Before the sun clears the Esquiline hill, Rome is already loud. The pre-dawn hours belong to the carts. Under the city's ordinances, wheeled traffic is banned from the streets during daylight, so the grain merchants, the stone haulers, and the wine distributors move through the darkness, iron wheels grinding against basalt cobbles, the shouts of drivers echoing off tenement walls 6 stories high. In the Subura district, one of Rome's most densely inhabited quarters, the noise never fully stops. It merely changes character. The baker rises before the carts fall silent. The insula, the apartment block, in which the baker and his family occupy a single rented room on the 5th floor, offers no particular comforts. There is no running water at this height. There is no latrine connected to the city's sewer network. There is a ceramic pot beneath the bed, and in the morning, its contents join 1,000 others emptied from windows onto the street below. The smell is the first thing any visitor to Rome would notice. Garum, the fermented fish sauce that flavors nearly every dish in the city, hangs over the markets. The fulonicae, the laundry workshops clustered near the Forum district, operate on collected human urine, whose ammonia content loosens dirt from wool. The streets between the insulae carry the combined residue of a city of 1 million people. Rome in 122 AD is the largest city on Earth. The baker knows no other world. On the hill above the Subura, in a domus of 12 rooms arranged around a colonnaded garden, the senator's household stirs at a more comfortable hour. The atrium is cool with mosaic tile. A slave carries water from the ground floor cistern. The distance between the two households is less than a kilometer. In every other sense, it is immeasurable. The baker's room measures perhaps 18 Roman feet by 12. Into this space fits a sleeping mat, a low wooden table, a clay brazier that serves as the household's only source of heat and light, and a locked wooden box containing everything the family owns of value. A few coins, the wife's bronze hairpins, a small terracotta figurine of the household gods, the lares, whose favor the family courts every morning with a pinch of grain placed before the small shelf altar on the wall. The baker's wife manages the domestic economy with the precision of an administrator. She knows to the as, the smallest copper coin, what the family spends and earns each week. Roman women of the plebeian class are not confined to the home. The baker's wife runs a small stall outside the insula 3 days a week, selling woven goods she produces in the evenings by lamplight. The income is modest. It is not optional. The child, a boy of 7, is already expected to contribute. At his age, the sons and daughters of Rome's working families do not attend school as the children of the equestrian class might. They carry messages, watch market stalls, assist at the family trade. Childhood as a protected period of life is, in 122 AD, largely a privilege of the wealthy. Down at the riverside warehouses along the Tiber, enslaved workers have already been at labor for 2 hours. The grain ships from Egypt dock at Ostia, 30 kilometers to the southwest. The contents, tens of thousands of bushels of wheat, move upriver on barges and are offloaded by teams of workers who will not see the food they handle. The Roman working day does not begin with a cooked meal. The baker eats a handful of olives, a portion of yesterday's bread, appropriate given his trade, and a cup of pasca, a thinned mixture of water and cheap vinegar that serves as a morning drink across most of the city's population. It is not unpleasant. It is simply what is available. At first light, the baker descends to street level to open the pistor, the neighborhood bakery, that he operates from a ground floor unit in the next block. The oven has been burning through the night, stoked by a hired assistant. The first loaves come out in the gray morning light, dense, round, scored in sections so that sharing requires no cutting. The street outside the bakery by mid-morning is a compressed world. A water carrier passes with a yoke and 2 amphorae drawn from the nearest street fountain, one of the hundreds that tap directly into the aqueduct network, which this year runs at full capacity under Hadrian's administration. A group of freedmen argue outside a barber's stall. A woman negotiates the price of dried figs from a basket seller sitting on the curb. Less than a kilometer to the northwest, the Forum of Trajan draws merchants and browsers to what is, in effect, the world's first purpose-built shopping complex. Trajan's Market, completed only a decade earlier, rises 5 stories above the Forum's eastern flank, housing over 150 individual shops selling everything from imported spices to legal documents. The baker has been there once. He goes to the popina on the corner instead. The baker's day is governed by fire, flour, and debt. The grain he requires arrives from Ostia via the state Annona system, Rome's public grain supply, an administrative mechanism so vast and so carefully maintained that its disruption would, within weeks, produce genuine crisis in the city. The baker buys at market price from a middleman near the Tiber warehouses. His margin depends entirely on volume. The trade guilds, the collegia, to which the baker belongs, provide a form of social insurance unavailable through any other institution. When a guild member dies, the collegia covers the funeral costs. When a member falls ill, informal support networks activate. In a city without hospitals accessible to the poor and without any state mechanism for supporting the sick or the elderly outside the grain dole, the collegia is the closest thing to a safety net that most working Romans will ever encounter. The morning passes in flour dust and heat. The customers are familiar faces, a thread seller from 2 doors down, a retired soldier collecting his bread, a freedwoman who manages a small popina around the corner and buys in bulk. The transactions are quick, conducted in the Latin that has by 122 AD absorbed Greek, Aramaic, Egyptian, and Punic loanwords into its everyday vocabulary. Rome is not a monolingual city. By the 5th or 6th hour, late morning by modern reckoning, the baker closes the oven and leaves the shop in the care of his assistant. The midday break is a recognized feature of Roman urban life. The heat discourages sustained activity. The nearest macellum, the covered food market, offers the full spectrum of what Rome's trade networks have assembled. Saltfish from the Adriatic sits alongside peppercorns from southern India, carried on the same merchant vessels that bring silk and spices through the Red Sea ports of Egypt. The price of pepper at market this year is, by the standards of a baker's income, prohibitive. The baker purchases smoked fish, a bunch of leeks, and a small clay pot of olive oil. The midday meal is eaten standing at a popina, one of the fast food counters embedded in the ground floors of insulae across the Subura. The counter is set with deep ceramic vessels sunken into a stone surface, each holding a different preparation: lentil stew, a chickpea paste, sliced pork. The walls above the counter are painted in vivid colors, scenes of diners, of drinking, of the pleasures available after hours. In the kitchen of the senator's household on the Esquiline, the cook, an enslaved Greek trained in the kitchens of a previous estate, is already preparing the evening cena, multiple courses, imported ingredients. The cost of a single dinner in that house represents the baker's income for a week. Neither household is aware of the comparison. It would not change anything if they were. The thermae are not optional. For the vast majority of Rome's population, the public baths are the only access to bathing, socialization, and physical maintenance available outside the home. The nearest neighborhood balnea to the Subura charges an as, a single copper coin, for entry. On days of public celebration, some facilities admit bathers without charge entirely. The sequence is understood by every Roman from childhood. The apodicterium provides lockers, though petty theft is a routine hazard, and the attendant watching one's clothes is tipped accordingly. The tepidarium offers warm water and a transitional space. The caldarium, heated by the hypocaust system, a network of channels beneath the floor through which hot air circulates, provides the primary bathing experience. For those who prefer it, the frigidarium offers a cold plunge that, in the height of summer, is regarded as one of the few genuine pleasures of city life. The social function of the baths exceeds their hygienic purpose. Business is conducted here. Relationships are maintained. News moves through the baths faster than through any other institution in the city. The baker, soaking in the caldarium, hears that grain prices at Ostia may rise next month. He hears that a fire destroyed 3 insulae in the Aventine district 2 nights ago. He hears that Hadrian, currently touring the northern provinces, has ordered new construction along the frontier. There is no privacy in the baths. The communal latrines adjacent to the bathing halls offer wooden seats above a channel of running water, arranged in rows with no partition between them. Conversation continues. Romans regard solitude as an unusual preference rather than a right. The long Roman afternoon moves toward the evening meal, the cena, which for the baker's household is simpler than the term implies. Bread, olives, salted fish, whatever vegetables the baker's wife has prepared over the brazier. Wine, cut with water. Unmixed wine is considered the habit of the uncivilized. The family eats together in the single room, the lamp throwing unsteady light across the terracotta walls. Before the meal, the baker performs a brief ritual at the household shrine. The Lars receive a small portion, a few grains, a drop of wine. The ceremony takes less than a minute, but in a household where neither the baker nor his wife doubts the influence of the gods on daily fortune, it is not neglected. A failure at the oven, a sick child, a run of poor sales. These are legible as signs. The gods require acknowledgement. As the evening deepens, the streets outside the insula begin to fill again. The carts return at dusk. Taverns open. Street musicians take up positions near the fountains. The sounds and smells of the Subura reassemble around the building, penetrating its thin walls. Across the city, in the senator's triclinium, guests arrive for a formal dinner that will extend past midnight. The order in which they are seated is a precise social calculation. Position relative to the host communicates rank to every person in the room. The conversation turns to patronage, to the emperor's movements in the north, to a land dispute near Capua. It is a different Rome. It is the same city. After dark, Rome changes character entirely. There is no public lighting. The vigilas, the city's night watch and fire brigade, patrol in groups, carrying torches, watching for the open flames that are the permanent terror of a city built largely of timber and plaster. A fire in an insula at night is a catastrophe from which escape is measured in seconds. The baker keeps water near the door. The instinct is universal among those who live above the ground floor. The streets of the Subura after the 10th hour are not places in which the prudent travel alone. Robbery is common. The municipal watch is stretched thin across a city of 1 million. The baker who has business outside after dark moves quickly, keeps to the center of the street where visibility is marginally better, and carries a small knife, a tool of the trade that doubles, in the Subura at night, as something else entirely. By the time the city falls into its brief and partial silence, that shallow pause between the last of the evening traffic and the first of the pre-dawn carts. The baker is already asleep on the mat beside his wife and child, in the single room 5 stories above a street that never quite goes quiet. Rome does not reward those who sleep long. This is the life that built the empire, not in marble and speeches, but in flower dust and lamplight, in the quiet management of a household budget that left no room for error, in the ritual performed before a shelf altar because the alternative, a world indifferent to the prayers of the ordinary, was not a world the baker chose to inhabit. The Rome of 122 AD is the largest, most complex urban organism the ancient world produced. The senator's mansion and the senator's library are part of that story. So is the 5th-floor room, the popina, the cold plunge, and the ceramic pot emptied at dawn. Survival in the ancient city was not heroic, it was relentless. What you have just watched was built using AI-generated visuals and narration. Every street, every market stall, every face in the caldarium reconstructed from historical evidence and brought to life through artificial intelligence. This is what History Rebuilds does. It takes the scholarship and puts the viewer inside the world it describes. Now I want to hear from you. Could the baker's household survive on that budget? Would the Subura break you in a week, or would you find a way through? Drop your answer in the comments. And tell me which class you would be: plebeian, freedman, equestrian, or senator. The answers are always more honest than people expect.